our association was of a senior and a junior one, and he was already a name in the arts, and he had done amazing work which all of us used to look at. So I was fortunate enough to have met him first time in Chandigarh. He was doing a production for a theatre department in Chandigarh called Kanak Di Bali. So I happened to be there, so he said, why don't you come and help me? So I designed a set for that play for him. So that was the first association as a young man and a senior person. So as he was going to do a film in Bangalore, Chomnadudi, Dr. Karanth's novel. So he used to collect a lot of young people around him to work as a community rather than anybody specializing in anything. So I was one of those young people who he said, why don't you come to be part of the unit? Although I had no experience, I had not seen even a camera. So those days, because we were Bohemians, young people, so we thought, why not to go? So I went and met him in Udupi. And so he said, okay, since you are a designer, so you look after the prop, setting up props, sets and all that. Although there were no sets those days, so everything was on the location. And so we started working as a group. So 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, and none of us really were there for any money, because those days probably films were made in 2 lakhs or 3 lakhs, black and white. And it was more like a theatre group than a film unit when I see it today. You have suddenly big units and specialized people. So it was more like a theatre group doing a film, in which you had the senior man who was always aloof and would not talk much, but yet whenever he came to in his, great enthusiasm, he'll just create some humor around, and then we kept on working with him. And so we went to his village, Manchi, and met his parents actually, in fact, had food also there in his house. Very simple people, so you could see that the kind of place he came from and the background. Then his association with Gubbi Virana Company, we would get to know about the stories only through this actor who was acting in the Chomnadudi, Baby G, Narayan Vasudev Rao. So he would keep on telling us stories, about him. So we used to call him Baby G, because I think he used to do makeup in the company. So he would keep on telling us stories about him, how he was, as a young boy, he came there and he used to do roles of female roles. So from that time, the associations, it went on. Sometimes we won't meet for 2 years, but then suddenly we'll bump into each other and meet, and he would ask me, what are you doing? Or he would know that that we are on that track of being a Bohemians and traveling from town to town, trying to find out theatre groups and do productions. So where the places which he went, in fact, it's amazing that all of us went to the same places, as if we were following him. But that was not something deliberate. But these are the places he had created, in fact, where outside directors were invited. So he was in Lucknow, so we went to Lucknow. He was in Bhopal, we went to Bhopal. Then we went to Ujjain, like this, since he had a terrible habit of traveling, going from place to place. So some of us, whether it was Raina, Bhanu, Ankur, Prasanna, and many more people. So there was a kind of a movement, in fact, in 70s, when people will be just traveling and going from place to place, although knowing that we won't be paid, because amateur groups didn't have the money. So we would reach a town, get to a tea shop and find out if there's a theater group. So from the tea shop, we would know there's a theater group. So, spend 10, 15 days, 20 days there and do small workshops and ultimately end up doing a production. Now we were looked after by the local people, as lower middle class does in this country. So if they had a room, so you would also sleep in the room. Whatever they would eat, we would also eat. So this is the kind of, I think, this whole legacy which he had created around North India. So we followed that legacy. Sometimes we went to more places than he didn't go. So if I would tell him, he would ask me where all did you go. So I would tell him in so and so place. He would say, "Oh, मैं नहीं जा पाया वहाँ," So he would always think that how is that these people went to so and so place and I didn't go there, but not realizing in fact we went to so many places where we didn't go. So it was like that kind of a relationship. And it was a relationship of a senior friend and a young friend. And the next time we met was when he was doing this children's film for Children's Film Society. So that was a great learning, We were working on a children's film where Puri, Om Puri was also acting in the film. He was doing the main role. So most of our time we would spend in Chaumudi Hills. And those were interesting stories. There was a monkey in the film. And this man, the owner of the monkey, wanting to make more money, so he'll get his monkey drunk in the night so that next day he won't get up. And then during the shooting, if he disappeared, sometimes the thread will break and suddenly he'll go into the jungle. And then all of us would search for him. It was like searching a monkey in the jungle, who has suddenly got away from those black threads and all that. So even Karanji running around. So all of us running in that Chaumudi Hills, like children. And that was his quality, in fact. He was like a child, in fact. And I suppose it's the child in him which kept on doing him, things, improvising things. Like a child, if he plays with a toy, he gets distracted, then he picks up some other toy. Then he gets distracted, then he picks up some other toy. I suppose that was a quality in his work also. He would get distracted, he'll say, okay, I don't like this, so he will start something else, which became part of his actually music also. He would do something, then suddenly change it and do something else. And that's what he was doing in productions also. But his traveling and association with the, what you call the rural India, and that rural India has to offer a lot to the contemporary world of theatre, was amazing. Therefore, when he became the director of drama school, so he thought, why not to have a department which would reach people, people who can't come to drama school for three years. Instead, we should be able to go to them. So we started an extension department in which I joined with during his tenure as a professor for extension programs. So we would conduct these workshops in different parts of the country. And then a lot of syllabus changed, like taking students to the rural areas. So now what you see drama school, some of the programs which drama school does, I think is his addition to the whole training system. So earlier the drama school was very Delhi based, it was very inward, it didn't know what's happening in the rest of the country. He really took drama school out into the rural areas and bringing in what you call the traditional or folk or the tribal forms and see that what all could be derived from it for the contemporary actor, which was amazing. It was almost running a state drama school which was in Delhi, but at the same time a drama school which was on wheels, So since I was heading this, so it became very exciting for us. It was almost as if we were not doing a job. We were still traveling, traveling all over. So that was a kind of association with him always. And once I remember going with him to Banaras for some seminar. And from Banaras we came to, he says, ki, chalo kahan chale? So he said, let's go to Mathura. So, nothing was decided. So we came to Mathura, and when we got down from the bus in Mathura, suddenly these pandas, they come and attack you. Kis mandir mein jana. So we tell them, no, we just want to see Mathura. They will say, no, you have to take us along as guides. I said, we don't want any guide. So it was like, they were cornering us. And they were like really gundas actually, who would not let you go into like in most of the religious places. It does not happen now, but it used to happen. Maybe it happens now also. So then both of us decided, okay, let's not go and see the town. We got into the bus and came to Gwalior. And Gwalior, we stayed 2-3 nights with the Little Ballet Troupe. This was one of the dance drama organizations. It's a very old, 60, 70-year-old organization where we met Prabhat Ganguly and Gulbardhan. And so from there he went to some other place. I came to Delhi. That's what was my association, with him. As a friend, he as a teacher, then as contemporaries, and sometimes, we'll probably get angry with each other also, then don't meet for some time. But then his qualities, the childlike qualities and the qualities of a Bohemian and collecting things actually was amazing. Wherever he go, if he looked at an instrument, he will just pick up an instrument, take it home. And the amount of magazines and newspapers he used to buy, it was a kind of obsession with him. In the mornings, the moment he would get up, he'll go to a newspaper shop, buy at least 10-15 newspapers, magazines, and come back and then go through almost all these newspapers and magazines. So his house sometimes used to be full of, this, I wouldn't say garbage, but these magazines and newspapers. So he would go through everything. One thing which I never understood, whenever we were together, he, in a group or, he would suddenly hide himself while eating. He would never eat, together. So he would take his thali and just go into one corner and eat. That was something, which was very private to him. And that was fantastic. I asked him once, I said, why do you do this? He says, no, I just want to, while I'm eating, it's a very private thing to me. In the party, yes, he would eat, but then this mostly he would be I suppose it was some kind of a loneliness actually in him, which used to take him to the corner or, eat his food. I got into habit of one thing while living with him actually. In Delhi, I would live with him sometimes. In Bhopal, his house was an open house. Anybody could go and stay with him. Like in South, you eat rice and dahi in the end. And then he used to get those, chilies, which he used to fry, they used to make the almost black. And then crush them and mix it with the dahi, chawal, and the chilies, red chilies, which would be fried so deep so that you could crush it as a powder. I got into the habit of eating that from him actually. I still like it actually. If nothing is there, so I would say fried chili, which can become a powder, and this rice. And this was in Bangalore also, when I was there, there was a place called Kala Sampada, which was their common place, where his friend, Mr. Achar, who was a photographer, he had an office. In that office, he had given me a room. So he said, since you paint also, so why don't you design posters also? So I designed posters for Chomnadodi. So those days you didn't have any, computers or anything. So everything was to be done with the hand, cut, paste, and everything. So I designed posters for Chomnadodi, did sets, made tea, did everything actually. Then, since I use a lot of music in my place, so either we would do it wherever we are, the local music director will do it. So, but for one play, he did music for me. That was Andayug, which I directed for Rang Mandal when he was a director there. So that was another very interesting, experience. How he would improvise. I mean, all those things probably a lot of many people must have told you about his idea of improvisation, playing with the sounds, using actually whole music as a soundtrack in the play. Uh, like other music directors will just compose songs in the play, which weeks it will be only song directors. But he would not only do a music in a play as somebody who has composed songs for you, but he will create a whole what you call a live track for you throughout the play. Therefore, which many people did not do. Which is almost creating a like in films. You have a sound, the music and sound becomes together as a parallel text. So that is a quality he had. He saw that music is not just singing a song, it's beyond that. Therefore, for him, sound also was a music, which probably cinema has achieved to a lot extent. To bring in that idea of, even if it is um, walking on the stage, whether it's a drum beat or whether it's using utensils or using stones or wood pieces, anything which would be around him, he would try to use it. And that was a quality in him which was amazing. And I would say that all of us have been his followers as far as uh, his bohemianism is concerned, and this idea of improvising and uh, using parallel texts in the play, not only as a playwright's text, but creating more texts, which I would say that these are the actor's texts or the director's text, which he was just amazing at. Creative differences are always there. They are actually not differences. I suppose each of us have at certain stage we reach a certain interpretations, uh, and all of us. For instance, when I started specialize, I said that why not to you have each theater group have its own philosophy, which in fact all of us differed from him. Probably he thought he would do everything and anything, any kind of a play. Sometimes he would do three plays, simultaneously. So that was, I suppose, that was the kind of times in which he lived. And then he had two extremes. Either he would try to work on classics, either he would try to work on the most new playwrights. So that was, I suppose, uh, his work was not always structured. It was very, fluid actually in that sense. Uh, and I suppose his sense of design was, I would say, weak, because me being a designer, sometimes uh, he would take things, lightly. ठीक है, चल रहा है तो चलने दो. But then this element, strong element of his music as a narrative was amazing. So creative differences were not, I think, because everybody was mm, working on his own. So there was no time to really say who is doing what. And some people might say that he was not a great music director. Some people might say he was. But for theatre people, he was the best. No, but you see, initially, because drama school was running on a certain, in a certain structure. To break away from the structure, it takes a lot of guts. Therefore, sometimes it would be accepted and sometimes it won't be accepted. Those days, there were not many grants. First, probably some people did not like the idea of that Indian student, drama student should learn about the Indian art forms, because everything was training had become so westernized in a way, because idea of theory had come from the West. But then he wanted actually to look at Natashastra also. He wanted us to look at Yakshagan also. He wanted to look at Nautanki also. Some of the interesting theatre forms which were prevalent. So some people who were very what you call structured in that Western mode of training, probably they would disagree with him, and therefore he had to go through those mm, agreements and disagreements, which I think he fought very well. When there is a creative person, there is always a myth that this creative person doesn't know how to do administration. After all, you are not supposed to write accounts every day, and for which you have accountants in the office. You don't have to. You have to sign checks and see. Administration also is a very rigid idea in this country. We understand administration only how a bureaucrat does administration. Well, I think he was creative in his administration also. So therefore, some people saying, it's a, when you can't attack a person, you can always say that he didn't know this and, he didn't know administration, he didn't, but he was there for 3 years. Ultimately, he did administration. Or he was in Rang Mandal, he did administration. He might not be good at drafting official letters, for which I don't think he needed to waste his time. You can always hire somebody to write official letters. So there is this, if you are not a great creative man, you will say, oh, he was creative, but he was not a great administrator. I mean, that's a peculiar contradiction I think all of us have. I mean, you have to find some fault with somebody. So therefore, I can also say, oh, he had so many faults. But ultimately, I think that's immaterial, in fact. The idea was extension to have it all over. I left actually, I resigned later on. Idea was to have extension all over. Idea was to have repertories all over. Idea was to, what Thai is doing nowadays, the children, the Thai, it was his idea. And there were a lot of many small ideas which we tried even in that 1 or 2 years when I was with him there. But then those ideas then later on changed when new directors came, new professors came, they changed, and everybody used that idea as his idea, as if he or she has introduced it. But I think these small, like small improvisations which he would do in his play, these ideas came into drama school, which are still. I remember even the budgets those days were so small. For instance, the budget for doing a folk festival will be 60,000-70,000 rupees, for 2-3 months. Now it is 60, 70, 80 lakhs. Now the budgets have changed. But those small things were happening, and I think drama school owes a lot to him. And what's important is that we need to recognize, the seed of a idea. If he had introduced something, we need to acknowledge it actually. It's very important actually. Now nobody is going to become smaller by acknowledging that. The moment you don't acknowledge it, actually you are becoming very small. After all, the ideas which came up, say, 20 years ago, maybe those ideas don't have validity today. That you have to look at it. What the situation which was there 20 years ago, things have changed now. Whether we need drama schools or not, whether we need repertories or not. Now, if you have drama schools, most of the students, there's not much of really what you call a professional work in theatre. So either they will go to television or films. I mean, nothing wrong in it. So do we really need a drama schools for 3 years? Will there be drama schools ultimately only for amateurs? Or we need repertory companies where actors can come and work in these companies? Now, these things are actually what was happening 20, 30 years ago. The idea which came to my mind, say, 30 years ago, might not be valid today, because the idea of economy has changed, the whole social structure has changed, everything has changed. Therefore, some ideas might work, some ideas might not work. It will be unfair also to stick to an idea which was there 20 years ago, because somebody had a great idea. But then great idea probably is not working today. I might have idea today, that necessarily does not mean that after 20 years my students or my friends should continue with the same ideas. Filmmaking has changed. Everything has changed. So I don't know, I mean, what is the validity today, whether you need it in some areas or not. Now, Karnataka has already two drama schools. One is in Hagud, and then if you have one more drama school, does it make sense? Instead, I think Hagud Drama School could be there, and instead they could have started a repertory company. If he was that, Karanji himself was a rigid person. He was not. He also would change from time to time. He was so flexible with the times, you know. He did not stay with his uh, ideas which he had in Gubi Virana company or the ideas which he had in Banars. He kept on changing till the last, even till his death actually. He kept on, you know, he believed in actually changes and times. If he believed in that, I think we also have to believe in them. He didn't say that. He did not say, he was not a fanatic that you stick to this and therefore my idea is the last idea. With now the global changes and the economic changes, I think if he had some ideas, one has to find how those ideas can be interpreted to suit the contemporary times now. Instead of picking up an idea which probably may not be uh, relevant today, but maybe the seed of that idea is relevant today, but it has to be seen in today's times, and in how it can be executed today and how it can be made relevant today. I would say that I mean all of us miss him, and ultimately everybody has to go, and we need to continue with his legacy as a somebody who believed in a change every time. So therefore, he has if one has to, I mean the great honor you can bestow onto him is by continuing with this idea of that change with the times and create work with the new institutions and create new. And his idea was always more institutions, new institutions with new ideas.